Mahito.
So, you made it.
Hello and welcome to the somewhat regularly scheduled movie review. Today's movie in question is The Boy and the Heron, directed by Hayao Miyazaki and animated by the lovely Studio Ghibli team. This is Hayao Miyazaki's 12th film, I believe, and I had very high hopes for this movie. Having contributed in Ghibli Fest and seeing all of Hayao Miyazaki's prior films, I went in expecting an excellent movie, and I came out flabbergasted, for lack of a better term. I went in expecting, or comparing it most to Spirited Away, as it's his most recent film, prior to The Boy and the Heron, to my knowledge. And I did see a lot of equatable things in both of these movies, mainly the story and animation style. This movie has ridiculously smooth animation and some very interesting, and when I say interesting, I mean interestingly excellent animation quirks. Mainly, it's in the trailer, so I think I'll talk about it without saying spoiler warning. But in the opening scene, the main character, Mahito, I think it's pronounced, is running through a crowd of people as the sky rains ash, or like burning wood kind of thing. And the way it's animated, the way he's almost phasing through these people, because nothing else is important but him and what he's running towards. It's such an interesting stylistic choice that I can't help but replay the scene over and over in my head, even though it is a very important scene, but in the actual story, it's more of a prerequisite. Just a quick little plot synopsis. This movie follows Mahito going into a spirit world, basically, trying to rescue his stepmom from what he believes is an evil force. And while he's in there, he learns to love his stepmother and appreciate what he has, and sort of mature. He acts very mature through the whole movie. He tries to act very stone-faced, and there are scenes where the mask sort of slips. And those emotional scenes do hit incredibly hard because you don't really see it very often, where his emotions actually get the best of him. Kind of jumping around here, trying to mention anything but the story specifics, so if you haven't seen the movie, you can keep watching. The animation in this movie is excellent, needless to say. The style of the movie is ridiculously quality. It's just beautiful. It's no surprise. Studio Ghibli, especially Hayao Miyazaki's movies, all are like consistently very beautifully animated. But I feel like this movie is like a step away from perfecting it almost. There's like earlier stuff that looks a little rougher but still has that really nice charm, like Castle in the Sky. And then there's newer stuff like Spirited Away that's smoother and, again, more smoothly animated, but still has that same style. This movie is definitely leaning more towards Spirited Away in that style of animation. And I'm not saying in a negative way at all, because it does wonders for this movie. Again, this movie's gorgeous. Some of the stylistic choices alone, I own an art book of this movie. I'd print out some of the frames in this movie and hang them on my wall. They're that good. The only real complaint I have about the movie is the soundtrack. When I think of Ghibli, I think of beautiful animations, great heartwarming stories, and great pieces of music. Pretty much every single Studio Ghibli movie, I say Studio Ghibli movie, but I really mean Hayao Miyazaki film, animated film with Studio Ghibli, pretty much all of them have that recognizable piece of music. Think Princess Mononoke with that super iconic piece of music. Think The Wind Rises with that really melancholic little tune. This movie has something very close to being like the main theme, this little piano number that's played kind of throughout the movie, but it isn't played in those moments that would really cement it as being the movie's main theme. And as a result, the movie kind of doesn't have as strong of a sense of music, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because the music in this movie, the little that there is great, and it does a lot for the movie, but at least comparing it to other Ghibli films, it doesn't have that same, like, stinger, almost, that the music normally brings. And that's really the only thing I can complain about this movie for, because the animation, again, I think I've said this already, but the animation is gorgeous. The story is very well written. If you've seen the movie, you'd probably agree with me. The characters are very likable. The Heron is not hilarious, but a very fun sidekick, basically. Mahito feels really driven, and he really unwavering of what he wants and what he's trying to do. And watching him grow and adapt to this crazy spirit world really makes you feel for him, because you kind of automatically insert yourself into any character. And this movie especially, you can't help but think, what would I do in a spirit world? I'm probably going to get into spoilers really soon, so if you haven't seen this movie, I seriously urge you to go see it in theaters. For me, over here, where I live, the only 2 screenings were at 10:30 a.m. and p.m. I saw it 10:30 a.m. today on Sunday, and even though I don't like waking up this early on Sundays, it was absolutely worth seeing in an IMAX. If you have an IMAX theater and they're showing The Boy and the Heron there, please go watch it in IMAX. Seeing a movie this beautiful on IMAX is a once in a blue moon kind of thing. The last time it happened was with Spider-Verse. Across the Spider-Verse, I should say. And that movie is gorgeous. And they're different kinds of beautiful, but they both are beautiful. But yeah, again, spoiler warning. Please click off the video if you haven't seen it yet. It's worth your time. Going into some of the story details, though, the quest for his mom is more of a general goal, when I think the actual goal of the movie is him kind of appreciating what he has and realizing how much bigger the world really is, because the start of the movie, before he enters the world, he's very reclusive. He goes to school for a day and he gets in a fight and he cracks his head open with a rock to make it seem like he got messed up and he had to stay home. He's very self-absorbed, and going into the spirit world and seeing all these crazy grand ideas. The one that sticks out in my head is the little souls, I forget what they're called, but the little white blob things that kind of float through up into the air. And as Kiriko, one of the housemaids, explains in the spirit world, she explains, oh yeah, those are like human souls that are just like floating up there. That's why we caught that big fish. We had to feed him. And it really puts into perspective how small the main character Mahito really is. And it helps him grow a lot as a character. Not only that, but him hanging out with his child mom was a very, very odd moment. I definitely wasn't expecting it, but I'm really happy it did happen, because he almost doesn't acknowledge that that's his young mom. And they're acting like two just friends. Two similar aged friends that would know each other from school. And it's a really nice buddy dynamic after the Heron kind of disappears for the second act, after distracting the parakeet. And speaking of the parakeet, I think the focus on birds in this movie is very clear, with the pelicans and the title Gray Heron and the parakeets. The birds add a level of not only goofiness, but a level of seriousness, because, again, the parakeets act as a sort of fighting up regime, battling against the great uncle of Mahito and the mom or whatever. And seeing these birds just so desperate to own this little land between lands is so excellent. And the movie does explain how they basically get to the land between lands. And honestly, the movie could have done without it. I'm not complaining, because it's interesting. But the movie could have gone without explaining it, and it wouldn't really have lost anything. This movie, the ending mainly, which I won't explicitly mention, but it is heartwarming, kind of. It's like partially heartwarming. And seeing Mahito talk to his like double great uncle or whatever is such a odd experience, because you could see how tired he is. You could see how badly he wants to just hand this job over to his double great nephew or whatever. And it adds a lot of character to the uncle, who in the grand scheme of things really doesn't do much in the movie. And seeing Mahito gain that love back for his mother, for his stepmom, when he finally finds her in the birthing chamber or whatever. It really is a great moment where he says, where the mom, in anger and frustration because she's pregnant, goes, "I hate you." And Mahito goes, "Come on, Mom, there's no time." And she kind of looks down. She's like, "Oh my God, he called me Mom." And it's that like they're both realization, like, we need each other. We need to, like, move past all this, Mahito mainly. We need to move past this, like, petty, like, oh, you're my dad's girlfriend kind of thing. And we need to truly just, like, lock in, basically. And it is, the character growth in this movie is very noticeable, which is a good thing. Especially for Mahito and the Heron, surprisingly. I thought the Heron would just be a kind of sidekick. No, he goes through his own little arc, and it is very nice. The movie hits everything it's trying to do perfectly. And for everything it's trying to do, that's very impressive. Everything feels very well explored on. This whole, like, spirit world feels really well organized and well expanded on. And even little things like the magical animals turning back into normal animals when they leave the door with the parakeets, and the constant showing of how much birds crap is just, there are a lot of really cute things in this movie like that just stick out in my mind. And that's something I don't think Spirited Away definitely had it with Ghost Mask or whatever his name was. But this movie more so has those, like, little things that you'll probably remember in, like, a month or two, thinking back on this movie and be like, oh yeah, that movie was great, it was so cute. But I think I've taken up too much of your guys' time already. I hope you go watch The Boy and the Heron in IMAX theaters if you can, or just in theaters at all. It is absolutely worth your time. It is PG-13, but it's really not that bad. I almost guarantee you'll absolutely love it, if not for the story, then for the animation and the very good music. I hope you enjoy it if you do go to see it. I hope you're in a good theater. My theater is practically empty. It's the highest grossing Studio Ghibli film over here, I think, or something like that. It would not surprise me if this won an Oscar over Spider-Verse in a month or two for Best Animated Picture. But I hope you have a good day, and I will see you. Well, before I do that, please give me any criticism in the comments if I should make these longer, if I should make these shorter, because this is already definitely a bit longer than my other videos. Please let me know. I'm willing to change anything to make you guys happy. The audio level is the big thing that I'm worried about, because I know how insufferable very quiet audio is. But besides that, I think we're good now. Hope you have a good day, and I will see you in the theaters.